They called it Project Silence, a classified psychological study buried deep within Cold War intelligence programs. No one was supposed to know it existed. Its purpose wasn't to cause pain or to extract confessions. It was to explore what happens to the human mind when all sound disappears. Officially, it was listed as environmental acoustic research. Unofficially, it was part of a darker branch, the study of sensory breakdown and how silence itself could be used as a weapon. The project began in 1959 after early CIA and Air Force tests revealed a strange discovery. Prolonged quiet caused hallucinations, memory loss, and complete emotional collapse. They believed silence could do what pain could not, make the mind surrender itself. Hidden inside a concrete facility in Nevada, engineers built a series of rooms that absorbed every frequency of sound. No echo, no vibration, not even the sound of your own breath. The air felt thick, alive, pressing against the skin. Subjects were told it was a focus experiment. They sat alone on metal chairs, monitored through small glass panels. At first, they felt calm, but calmness never lasted. After 5 minutes, most began to hear their heartbeat. After 10, their pulse in their temples. After 15, something else. The first to report auditory hallucinations was a Navy radar operator. He claimed he heard whispering, at first behind him, then inside him. When they checked the recording, there was nothing. He asked to leave after 12 minutes. By the time the door opened, he was trembling uncontrollably. A note from the attending psychologist reads, "Subject appeared aware of thoughts not his own, requested to know who else was in the room. He was alone." Over the next months, the experiments intensified. Subjects were kept for longer intervals, sometimes restrained, always monitored. Researchers noted that most broke down not from fear, but from the sound of their own existence. One man said he could hear his blood rushing like a river. Another claimed he could hear light bulbs humming, though the power was off. The silence had turned against them. They began to speak, not to the observers, but to the silence itself. When the tapes were played back, faint noises appeared in the background, rhythmic, almost patterned. Some researchers believed it was the sound of the mind creating something to fill the void. In 1961, the project's focus shifted. The goal was no longer observation, but conditioning. If silence could fracture the mind, could it also rebuild it? The chambers were modified. Low-frequency tones were introduced at the edge of hearing. Subjects described feeling pressure, anxiety, or calm depending on the frequency. It was as if their emotions could be tuned. A redacted memo from the same year mentions, "Behavioral compliance increased after exposure to sustained quiet. Subject displays total passivity." What began as science had become control. One scientist later confessed in an interview, anonymously, that they experimented on their own staff without consent. Long work hours in sealed rooms, minimal sound exposure, constant humming. He said the technicians started hearing orders that no one gave. Another document describes a final test labeled Phase Delta. 3 subjects placed in isolation simultaneously with a single drop of water leaking from the ceiling. They were left for 40 minutes. When the door opened, one was laughing, one was crying, and one was completely unresponsive. The report ends abruptly. The next page is missing. By 1972, Project Silence was officially terminated. The facility shut down, the rooms sealed. But fragments of its research later reappeared under different programs: acoustic stress induction, sensory neutralization, cognitive collapse testing. The same ideas, the same silence. Declassified papers from the 1980s reference experimental rooms capable of neutralizing subject resistance through absence of sensory input. No project name is listed. One of the original scientists, Dr. Harold Wexler, vanished in 1978. His journal was found years later in a storage unit in Arizona. The last entry read, "There is no such thing as silence. When the world goes quiet, the mind begins to scream." Today, one of the few surviving chambers still exists, officially used for acoustic calibration. Visitors are warned not to stay inside for more than 30 minutes. Most leave after 5. They describe the same symptoms as the subjects did decades ago: pressure in the skull, ringing in the ears, and the feeling that someone else is breathing nearby. They built those rooms to study silence, but what they found was that silence studies you back.